I am continuing in my reading. What I'm doing in this series is to read through the entire standard works of the Church of Jesus Christ of Latter-day Saints. This consists of the Bible, the Book of Mormon, the Doctrine and Covenants, and the Pearl of Great Price. I am continuing reading in a chronological order, according to event, not according to publication or volume. So I'm skipping around a bit as I move along. So we've been reading the Gospels. We're going to continue here. This will again read multiple Gospels in this video. What we've been reading so far, he did go to a Passover shortly after his baptism, but the Jews in Jerusalem conspired against him, so he came back to Galilee, where he has called a number of men to the ministry to join him. He has preached all around. The last thing we read was how he went through all the cities of Galilee preaching, and people came from all the regions round about, coming to him to be healed and to learn from him. And he heals those, but only those who believe, those who have the faith to be healed. He heals all those with the faith. Now that's where we left it off. He's in his ministry now. Now we pick this up. We're going to read, same story here. First Mark, then Luke, then Matthew. In this video, we have a Joseph Smith translation. Now what the Joseph Smith translation is, this is a translation or correction done by Joseph Smith to restore those passages that have been lost or corrupted over the years. So let us turn to Mark chapter 1, verses 40 through 45. And there came a leper to him, beseeching him, and kneeling down to him, and saying unto him, If thou wilt, thou canst make me clean. And Jesus, moved with compassion, put forth his hand, and touched him, and saith unto him, I will, be thou clean. And as soon as he had spoken, immediately the leprosy departed from him, and he was cleansed. And he straitly charged him, and forthwith sent him away, and saith unto him, See thou say nothing to any man, but go thy way, shew thyself to the priest, and offer for thy cleansing those things which Moses commanded for a testimony unto them. But he went out and began to publish it much, and to blaze abroad the matter, insomuch that Jesus could no more openly enter into the city, but was without in desert places, and they came to him from every quarter. So why does Christ not want him to proclaim this? He's done many miracles in other places. Why does he want this guy to stay silent? Why does he say, don't tell anybody? Well, the reason is exactly as it describes here. He knows that when people get too familiar with his ability to heal, he deals with mobs, with crowds. And the guy, he doesn't listen to Christ, so he goes out and he tells everybody about it. And so now everybody is flocking to Christ, and Christ cannot get into the city. He has to stay out in the country. And I think Christ is just getting kind of tired of it. He wants to be in a house with a bed. He doesn't want to be sleeping outside in the bushes. But because the guy went and published everything, he can't get into the city. He can't get a room at the inn because everybody is mobbing around him. But remember that he did not hesitate to heal the man. The man came, if thou canst make me, if thou wilt, thou canst make me clean. The man had the faith, Christ had the compassion. It is actually a very nice story, very, very good story about compassion. But I do, just as Mark does, Mark likes to humanize him, and you get kind of feeling that, you feel a little sympathy for Christ in this, that he wants to go into this. He wants a bed to sleep in. But because the man is publishing it all over the place, he just can't do it. He can't get back into the city anymore because too many people are coming to him, and the only place to teach them is out in the wilderness. Let's look at the Joseph Smith translation. No, not too much here. Again, just grammatical updates in verse 40 where it says, And saying unto him, If thou wilt, just says, And said unto him. And again changes saith to said in verse 44 and pluralizes the word priest, nothing significant. And in verse 45 changes desert places to solitary places. Minor grammatical and language updates, nothing significant. So now we turn to Luke. This will be Luke chapter 5, verses 12 through 15. And it came to pass, when he was in a certain city, behold, a man full of leprosy, who seeing Jesus fell on his face, and besought him, saying, Lord, if thou wilt, thou canst make me clean. And he put forth his hand, and touched him, saying, I will, be thou clean. And immediately the leprosy departed from him. And he charged him to tell no man, but go, and shew thyself to the priest, and offer for thy cleansing, according as Moses commanded, for a testimony unto them. But so much the more went there a fame abroad of him, and great multitudes came together to hear him, and to be healed by him of their infirmities. Same basic story. He doesn't seem to blame the guy that was healed for spreading the news. It's just a general thing that is, the news gets spread. He also doesn't talk about Christ having compassion. I find that interesting. Mark says, and Christ had compassion on him. Luke just says he healed him. Again, it's Mark who is trying to show that Christ is human. He has these human feelings and emotions. Now you'll also note in both of these that Christ commands the man to go to the priest and give the sacrifice as is required under the law of Moses. Christ is not undoing the law. He has not come to oppose the law of Moses. He has come to fulfill it. And so you still, at least while he is alive, you still need to comply with that law. And so the man cleansed of leprosy needs to go and perform the proper sacrifices. Let us look at the Joseph Smith translation. Anything important? The only change here is in verse 14. In the King James it says, "And he charged him to tell no man, but go and shew thyself to the priest, and offer for thy cleansing." Joseph Smith clarifies just a little bit. "And he charged him to tell no man, but said unto him, Go and shew thyself to the priests." Again, he is pluralizing the word priests, but he fixes that grammar there so that we actually have a statement that Christ is speaking. Nothing real significant, though. So let us look at Matthew. We're actually going to be in Matthew chapter 8 this time. We're going to read verses 1 through 4. "When he was come down from the mountain, great multitudes followed him. And behold, there came a leper, and worshipped him, saying, Lord, if thou wilt, thou canst make me clean. And Jesus put forth his hand, and touched him, saying, I will, be thou clean. And immediately his leprosy was cleansed. And Jesus saith unto him, See thou tell no man, but go thy way, shew thyself to the priest, and offer the gift that Moses commanded for a testimony unto them." Basically the same story. There are two things. First of all, he doesn't mention that the fame of Christ goes out and the crowds gather around. And at the beginning it says he came down from the mountain. Because this, in Matthew's telling of this is coming immediately after the Sermon on the Mount, which is Matthew's chapter 5 through 7. And so he's saying after preaching that sermon, he comes down from the mountain, he cleanses the leper, and we don't get any mention of the crowds of people because he's already talking about Christ being in a solitary place preaching. It's a very interesting thing there. But other than that, there's no difference in the story. So let us see what we have in the Joseph Smith translation. In verse 1, the King James says, "And when he was come down," the Joseph Smith translation says, "And when Jesus was come down," so minor clarification. Verse 2 says, "And behold, there came a leper, and worshipped him, saying," and Joseph Smith again, just minor correction here, "And then there came a leper worshipping him." Very minor. And in verse 8 again we have, "Jesus saith," changed to "Jesus said," and then he says, "But go thy way, shew thyself to the priest." Joseph Smith corrects this, "But go thy way, and shew thyself to the priests." Very little, nothing of great importance, but I do note that in all three instances, Joseph Smith corrects it to pluralize the word priest. Because at this time, there was not a single high priest over everything. Well, Caiaphas was the high priest at the time that, there were two high priests when Christ was born. Caiaphas is the high priest at the crucifixion. But there's a rotation of priests at this time. There's no single high priest over everybody, but a number of priests take turns being high priest. And so you don't go show yourself to a single priest, you show yourself to those who are the priests. I find it interesting that Joseph Smith made that change in all three. But we leave that here. Our next video will be only in Matthew, and then we will read in Mark, and then Luke. I believe all three the same story, but somewhat longer tellings, and so we are going to separate them into individual videos. So I will see you there.